Hello everyone, welcome. I'm Robert, and today I want to discuss my top board gaming accessories. So with a couple exceptions, these are typically things that don't go back into the board game box. I keep all of these things near my board gaming table in a couple drawers, and they really enhance my experience. I very rarely just open a board game and play it. I always try to find little things that I can do to reduce fiddliness and improve table footprint and just enhance the tactile experience. Okay, so I'm gonna more or less order the list in how much I use certain items. Okay, especially towards the top of the list, and I'll leave links in the description for most of these items if you're interested. And without further ado, let's get started. But first, I would like to do a honorable mention to good old playmats, okay? So I don't ever play board games not on a playmat surface, okay? So I have multiple board gaming tables, and they all are covered in one gigantic playmat. And when I go on trips, I bring I always try to stick a playmat into the travel bag. Okay, so if you have not tried a playmat to play on, you're not gonna regret it. Okay, and for those that don't sleeve, I highly recommend it because if you play on a playmat surface, it actually kind of helps preserve your cards a bit, okay, by reducing the amount of nicks that they get, and the surface is not going to be as harsh on your cards when you move them around. And it also makes it better for picking up cards when they're not sleeved, okay, because you can just kind of dig your finger into the neoprene surface, and it lets you pick up cards without having to like scratch them or anything. So highly recommend that you get playmats. I never not play on a non-playmat surface, okay? On a couple other honorable mentions that I want to bring up, folks. First, there's a label maker. So if you don't have one, you're really missing out. So for example, I use these to create some card divider tabs for Marvel Champions, okay? And I've used it in other things. This is mostly for organizational purposes. I just don't think that I could have included this in any other video necessarily, but I wanted to bring up label maker MVP, all right? And then we have, this might be a bit silly, calculators. I just don't like using the calculator on my phone. Don't know what it is about it. I like having these big chunky buttons, all right? So for games that have very involved scoring, like Imperium, I really like using the calculator. It just kind of eases the fiddliness, all right? I don't know what it is about it. I don't like using the calculator on my phone, all right? But yeah, those are just a couple honorable mentions that I wanted to bring up. Okay, so at number 12, we have a friction tape, okay? So this, to me, folks, it's one of the most wonderful inventions made, okay, because I use this so much, and normally I would have pretty much ranked this within the top 3 items of things that I use with board games. But the thing is, I use this with other components that I'll list later, okay? So I just want to start with this and and introduce this to you so that later when I explain how I use it with other components, you'll understand, right? So basically what this does is this tape will make it so that when you add it to something, it'll be like the bottom of a mouse pad or a neoprene playmat, right? So it'll add friction and it'll help things stick in place when you move them around. And maybe it's just me, but I really dislike it when I have like, trays or any kind of component, many of which I'll show later, that when I just touch them or pick them up or try to utilize them, that they kind of slide around the surface, right? And I really hate that. So I use this all the time, and I just add a little strip of friction tape at the bottom. I made a short video a couple of years ago showcasing this wonderful material, but you'll see as I show the other components how I have enhanced them with this, okay? And you'll see just how amazing this thing is, and maybe you'll become a fan like I am. So yeah, that's number 12, not the most exciting, okay? And again, I normally would have ranked it much higher, but I'll bring it up multiple times as I show you other items on the list, okay? So that is friction tape. Okay, so next we have these couple contraptions here. This is the flip clip, okay? And this is a generic book opener slash stand that I got on Amazon years ago, okay? So these are great because what they let you do is This right here will allow me to open bigger books that are not spiral bound. So if you have a book that you have a hard time keeping open and you would like it to just stay open for a couple pages, you just leave it open at the page where you need it to be, and then you just stick it in there, right? And it'll stay in front of you for you to read while you have your board game in front of it. Okay. Now this flip clip is more. It doesn't act too much as a stand, or although it can. But the flip clip, I typically just use it for keeping non-spiral books like this that might have a hard time staying open. So you just open it like this, right? Go like this. Boom, boom. Okay, and it'll keep it open. Okay, and I kind of leave it flat on the table typically, but it'll keep the pages open for you. All right. So yeah, when I play games that involve using books like this, these two items come in very handy. More often than not, the flip clip. The other bigger clip is a bit more rare for me to use. But yeah, those are book stands. Highly recommended. Next, I want to discuss life counters. So these are many of the life counters that I've accumulated over the years. Most of them are from when I used to play Magic, okay? And most of them are not budget friendly, but hear me out. There is a budget friendly option among these. I'll get to that one. But if money wasn't an issue, I would use these for every board game, and I would throw it into the board game box of most of them. Okay, these are the Commander life counters, and they're so well built, and they have this nice click when you move the numbers. Okay, so this is my favorite. But yeah, these are like $10 a pop, so I keep a couple for me to bring out when I play certain board games. But if I wish I had like 100 of them just to have one on each board game. I just love these. These are Ultra Pro token live counters, okay? And this is like, I believe a discontinued product line, but I bought a bunch of these back in the day, and I think you can still buy them in bulk. I think you can buy them on TCG Player. And one thing I like about this is that you can customize them. So I have a couple of generic ones where I covered it in carbon fiber. I removed the art so that, I don't want like zombie art on every board game, right? But I have a couple of generic ones, and some of them have a secondary dial that goes up to 9, okay? So I love these. They're pretty versatile. And yeah, I customize my own. You can even make art and print it and stick it in here if you want. I kind of painted here myself, but these are fantastic. I love these Ultra Pro token dials. They're pretty cheap these days, I think. And they came in like booster packs, so some of them have like rarity. You don't have to buy the rare or foil ones, just buy the cheapo ones and you can customize them. But these are fantastic. They have a nice build to them. These come in Magic Commander decks, and I think there's a chance that you might buy this in bulk from certain LGSs, okay? And what I like about this is that they're pretty portable. So I have a handful of these, and I've thrown it back into some board game boxes because I didn't mind like dedicating some of these to some board games. And they're pretty flat, so they won't occupy too much space on your board game box, okay? So I like these. These come with all Commander decks these days. These are great. They go up to 40. And this is the oldest one I have, like back when I first started playing Magic, like in the Stone Age. So I don't think you can find this one these days, but I just wanted to throw it in there because it's the first dial that I ever bought. But there's a lot of off-brand ones that look like this, so these are fantastic. But now here is the real budget option that I really want to talk about. These are neat counters. Okay, you can buy this at craft stores, and you can buy this in big quantities, like 10 of like 5 of each color on Amazon for less than $10. So this is a pretty good budget option. And now I do have a bit of an issue with them, right? And it's that they kind of roll, right? And I wanted to figure out a way for them to face you, right? Like when you leave them on their own, I don't want them to like move around. I want them to like stick in place and face you, right? So I came up with a solution, right? So what you do is you use these cable nails, right? So I had a bunch of these that you buy so that you can nail cables to the wall, right? And I had a lot of them, and you don't have to get rid of the nail necessarily. You can still save it for later. You can pull it out of there. But what I do is I cut this, right? I cut this piece of plastic, and I use a bit of hot glue to add it about there, okay? And what that'll do is it'll make it now stay in place. Now, I'm not going to do the glue part, but this is what it looks like when it's finished. And when you add it in there, it faces you. Now, this one, I moved it a bit so that it kind of faces up for this for 4 Against Darkness. I made 4 of these for 4 Against Darkness. But if you want it to face you, you just move this down one more space there, right? And yeah, I made a bunch of these, and it just takes a minute to glue the piece of plastic to this, and you get some really good quality counters, and they can be used for life, for gold, whatever you want in your games. And I have a handful of these that I use for various games. But yeah, and you can use like a sticker. You can use a labels sticker maker to label them, all right? But yeah, life counters, I use these a lot in all my board games because sometimes I'm not satisfied with like the tracking board, like the tracking boards that some board games include, or they include dice or tokens. So if this reduces fiddliness, I use one of these in various board games. One of my favorite accessories. Next, we have slider clips, okay? So these I order from the Game Crafter, all right? These things are wonderful because many items in this list are about not only enhancing the board gaming experience in the tactile department, but also, you know, not helping me not having to remember certain things. Like when I walk away from like a game, I like to figure out some method for marking where I was at in the turn structure, in the phase, or which character I needed to activate or whatever. So these slider clips are great because many board games come with a turn summary card, okay? And what I do is I use these sliders to keep track of which turn I was at, all right? So when I come back, I can just say, okay, I was in this phase of the turn. Or even if you have... If you're starting early on in the board game and you want to very meticulously keep track of your where you're at in the turn, this thing is fantastic, okay? And in some cases, in multiple cases, you'll see that it's perfectly spaced, almost like this one. You can see that it with the S letter, it kind of touches it a bit, but in many cases, the amount of margin is like perfect. It's almost as if it was designed specifically for the way that they laid out the text in the card. But yeah, you can keep track of the turn structure here either while playing or if you just need to walk away from the game. So these slider clips are fantastic. Almost every time that I order from the Game Crafter, I add a couple extra ones because sometimes I like throwing some of these back into the board game box, okay? In certain games, just having like a dedicated one for certain games. But yeah, these slider clips, folks, just amazing. Highly recommended. Next, we have top loaders. So this is another item that I accumulated many of when I used to play Magic. So when you buy singles, typically sellers will send you their singles in one of these top loaders. So I have like a million of this sitting around, right? But I really like top loaders because for certain games, like for example, Marvel Champions, I really like having my hero card in one of the top loaders, okay? And there's also a Lord of the Rings LCG, right? So I like having all of my heroes and main characters in a top loader. Now, one really useful thing about top loaders is that they add a bit more surface to your card, and this is especially great in games where your character has a bunch of tokens on them, okay? So it, by adding that extra surface, you can fit more tokens on top of your character card, basically, all right? And, well, not to mention that it also protects that card. So character cards tend to be manipulated a lot in certain games, okay? So it'll protect it extra. And another little tip, folks, is that you can also dry erase on these surfaces, and not just this, on any kind of plastic sleeve. So if you want to write things rather than using tokens, you definitely can, okay? And you can very easily just erase it later, and you're going to be good to go, right? And again, this also applies to just plastic sleeves in general. So, keep that in mind, okay? And it might help you reduce fiddliness in certain games where you're constantly changing stats for a character, all right? So that's top loaders. Next, we have digital writing pads. So we have a boogie board here on the left, and here we have a Ultimate Guard life pad. Sadly, this is discontinued. Maybe you can buy it used, but yeah, it looks like this is discontinued. I bought this, and back in the day, I used to bring it to Magic pre-releases to keep track of health rather than the writing pads, and I just love this product. It's very neat. Battery lasts forever. Okay, and there's also the boogie board, same thing, just bigger. I tend to use this more frequently because it occupies less room on the table. So the biggest reason why I use this typically is for keeping track of where I was at in a turn. But sometimes it's not as simple as just leaving like a marker with a clip, right? Like I showed earlier. Sometimes there's a couple of things I need to know about the board state, and before I walk away, so that when I come back, I'm aware of those things in the board state, and here's where I write them, right? Like character A needs to, they need to heal, or they already healed, all right? So things like that, right? Things that I don't have like a token that designates certain things. So this is, I use these for more complex board states where I need to remember a certain character, use a certain ability, and I just leave that on the table with that written fact. And yeah, I know that I could use like a sticky note, but I don't want to have like a bunch of sticky notes wasted, like I'm thrown out, right? So I prefer these. The battery lasts forever. These are fantastic. I love these digital write pads. Highly recommended. All right, so moving on, we have these 3D printed token trays, okay? So these are sold by multiple Etsy sellers. They all use the same 3D model, basically. I just bought it from whoever at the time had the best price. I'll go ahead and link them below. But now, for most of my games, I like coming up with my own storage solutions, and that includes using pill organizers or other like low budget dollar store storage for tokens. But for certain games, I don't want to bother with that, and I simply keep the components in bags, okay? Especially when storage might be tight in certain boxes. So I just like using these token trays in those cases, right? And you just dump your tokens there, and you're good to go, right? And the only thing I do is keep every type of token separate in its own bag, right? So there's a tray dedicated to each one. And the thing I love about these token trays is that you just put the bag in the bag like that, okay? So if you don't want to bother coming up with like storage solutions for tokens for games so that it's neatly organized, which typically that's the first thing I go for, but when that's the exception, and if you just want to keep things in bags, it's great to keep these near your board gaming table. And if you look below here, that's right, I added some friction tape, okay? Remember I mentioned earlier that I use friction tape in multiple things. You'll see, you're gonna start seeing some of that now, but here is where I use friction tape, right? I added a strip of friction tape to each of these, okay? And I forgot to mention, right? So when I bought these, you can basically choose which parts you want. You can basically make your own set. I bought some of these, and they act as card stands. They're not my favorite though. I don't use these that much because the thing is they don't fit sleeved cards very well, and they hide the bottom, right? So I'm not too much of a fan of this for holding cards, okay? But yeah, this is part of the set that I bought. You also have a little slit there where you can add cards. So here you can keep track of how much health the villain has, for example. So that works too if you want to do that. But yeah, a little bit of friction tape at the bottom of all of these. It really just is a superb way to organize your tokens around you when you set up for your games, okay? So yeah, I do use these pretty frequently, but again, typically I make my own token organizing solution custom for each board game. But when I'm too lazy for that, I just stick everything in bags and just bring these out every time I play that board game specifically. But yeah, those are 3D printed token trays. Next, we have one of the latest additions to my repertoire, and that's this UberStax set, okay? So this is particularly wonderful for LCG games where you have to keep the villain and the scheme in front, also for Arkham Horror to keep the agenda and the act decks in front of you. Is just fantastic. And one detail that I love is that you have this little space in front at the bottom where you can keep track of You can keep track of the tokens and put them in front of it like that. I just find that just fantastic. Okay, now they can also be customized into different shapes. Okay, if you need like if you need like a double tier, you can arrange it into a double tier. I'm not gonna do that on camera. If I find a picture, I'll show you. But this is basically the only shape in which I've used it, and you can also separate it into different ones. And as you can see, there it is again, some friction tape. Okay, that was the one thing that bothered me a bit. Like it can tip over a bit too easily. But what I came up with to enhance that a bit, okay, to reduce it tipping over, right? So first I added some friction tape at the bottom, helps keep it in place, right? And then if I don't want it to tip over, so what I do is I wedge it there in that area, right? And then I just kind of put it at an angle, and there. Okay, so now it doesn't tip over, stays in place, all right? Pretty solid. And there you go. You can put your scheme in the middle, your villain here, all right? Now it's not going to have enough thickness for most decks of cards. Sometimes like if you want to put the enemy deck, it's not going to fit there, all right? But yeah, for having like the display of the villain and adding tokens and whatnot is just great. Okay, love it. Now, moving on, we have a different type of card holder. I bought a set of these a while ago, okay? Now, they're intended for cards. The problem is, I don't like how much of the card at the bottom they cover. Like, it works for standard poker cards, that's fine. But for certain cards, it will cover a lot of the information. So I don't use these for cards. What I use these for is I use these for rules, right? So when the game comes with tables or rules, I really, really like using these for surrounding myself with the rules and having certain information available at a glance, right? Especially, again, with games that come with tables or turn structures, right? Or flow charts, anything of the sort, right? So you can kind of have this like almost DM screen surrounding you, right, with this. So I really, really like this. I use this so much. And if you laminate sheets, like obviously this is not going to work if you have like just standard ply office paper, okay? It has to either be cardboard sheets or laminated sheets, okay? But yeah, this is one of the most used peripherals that I use when I set up for a game. It really just helps me not have to reach for the rulebook and glance or at certain things. Just print out the main tables or rules and surround myself with all the sheets using these stands. So these are fantastic for that. Keep in mind that it does still cover, it does tend to cover some information at the bottom, okay? That is the unfortunate part. I wish I could like file that off or something, but I think that'll be too much work. But yeah, just the one warning. It'll still cover some of the information at the bottom, but regardless, this is one of my favorite accessories. Next, we have one of the top used components when I play board games, and that's these wonderful business card holders, okay? I've shown them in multiple videos when I talk about board games, and people always ask me, wow, that's really cool, where do you get it, right? So yeah, these are just simple business card holders from Amazon, and these can hold about 30 to 40 sleeved cards, depending on the thickness of the cards and the sleeves, okay? But there's certain games that come with like a million different deck types, okay? And if you want to reduce table footprint, it really doesn't get better than this, okay? Now, one little enhancement, okay? What do we have here? Yes, that's right. Friction tape, okay? Because there was one thing that was driving me nuts about the business card holders, and it's like every time I picked a card, it would slide around the table. And again, I hate that. So just a little strip of friction tape, folks, and it'll stay put in place like it should, right? And yeah, just all it takes is just a little strip at the bottom, and you're gonna be set. This might seem excessive how many I've bought, but there's been some games that come with so many types of cards that I've actually used all of them, okay? So just buying one might not be enough depending on what game you end up buying, okay? Just a heads up. But yeah, for certain games, depending on the amount of cards and the layout, I have a couple different types. You have the one column and the two column type here, okay? These are fantastic for that purpose. Keep in mind that for certain sleeves, for this specific one column variant, certain longer sleeves, like the penny sleeves, you might have a hard time fitting them horizontally in there. Okay, I think this hasn't been an issue here. You can see that there's plenty of room there to the right. So if you decide to use like penny sleeves, you're not gonna have a problem. Okay, but yeah, other than penny sleeves, these should fit horizontally in there, okay, without it going against the little wall there. So yeah, folks, those are business card holders. They really help me keep the table footprint in check, and people ask me about them all the time. So there you go. That's how I use them, and I highly recommend that you add a little piece of friction tape like I do so that they stay in place. Did someone say dice? So yeah, folks, one of my favorite things to do is figuring out if adding dice for certain games enhances the gameplay, okay? Some games include tokens for tracking certain stats in characters. One recent example was Midara, which I recently reviewed. You're supposed to keep stamina tracked for characters, which they use for actions. And they include these 1 and 3 denomination tokens for you to keep track of them. And I just found that so damn fiddly, okay? So, you know what I did? I just grabbed one of these red dice, okay, which the character stamina doesn't go past 5 anyway, okay? So it's perfect, all right? So I was able to reduce fiddliness by a pretty big factor just by just putting those tokens away and using dice. So I love having the variety of dice, and I've accumulated many over the years. Many I had from when I played Magic. Sometimes I find them on sale on Amazon. So I just like matching colors and things like that. Sometimes I prefer using pips. Sometimes I prefer the denominations, and so on. Okay, so just having some assorted dice really goes a long way. And I do pretty frequently dedicate some dice to certain board games, and I include them. I put them back in the box. I don't mind buying dice every now and then if there's a certain type of dice that I see myself using very frequently. But I want to show you a little trick, okay? Because one thing that I really don't like about dice, though, is that not pretty much like most of them, they don't have a 0 denomination, okay? They don't have a 0, right? But I figured out a little trick. So these are privacy stickers for webcams, right? For laptops and whatnot. So I have, I only have so many devices, right? So I had a bunch of these. So what I figured is that I can use these privacy stickers, right, to cover the number 6 in certain dice, right? So there you go. Now you have a 0 denomination. So it'll depend on the game, right? So in certain games, if you need the 6, that's fine. But like in Midara, where the character's stamina doesn't go past 5 in most cases, right? I just add a little privacy sticker there. And there we go. Now I have a 0 on the die, and I didn't do a good job like centering it, right? But I typically just try to center it a bit better. But now if my character runs out of stamina, you have a 0, and you can just keep the die on top of the character. You don't have to put the die away. And this will also work on other size dice, okay? So if you want to cover the 12 on this D12, there you go, okay? There, now you have a 0 denomination for the D12, and it goes up to 11, right? So this would be great, for example, for a scheme in Marvel Champions, which they don't typically get bigger than 12 or 10. So I could use this customized die for Marvel Champions, okay? Now, of course, I wouldn't be able to discuss dice without also discussing dice towers, okay? So I've accumulated a total of 3 dice towers, and I don't think I need more at this point, but I wanted to just have a couple different ones, and some of them I found on sale and whatnot. But I've settled with these 3 types, okay? And I do go back and forth between them. It depends on the size of dice that certain games have. Some games have really big, chunky dice, so I use this dice tower for that one, okay? And for games that have smaller dice, I use this one. And if you also want the sound of dice going against wood like that, there we go. Maybe that's too noisy and you don't want to make too much noise, so you can use one of these. There we go, right? So there is reason to use either, so that's why I have multiple. There's also the good old dice tray, but I never play a game without using one of these, okay? I really hate rolling dice just on the table because they tend to knock other components. Even when I try to like roll it within a contained area, like they just kind of go all over the place, so I hate that. So I always use dice towers or a dice tray when I play. And this was the very first dice tower that I had. I 3D printed this like forever ago. And this was just a little cardboard piece that I repurposed so that it had a little track in there. Okay. And the cool thing about this one is that it is foldable. So if you want like a portable dice tray, you can 3D print one of these models. All right, but there you go, folks. Assorted dice and dice trays and towers. I use these so frequently with games and tend to replace tokens with these that, yeah, it's just one of my most used arrangement of components. Did someone say tokens? So yeah, on top of the assorted box of dice that I have, I also have a box of assorted generic tokens and also some repurposed tokens from other board games. And for this, you can do anything. You can buy assorted learning cubes from Amazon. You can use poker chips. They're definitely a bit pricier, but I love how hefty they are and I love the sound that they make, okay? But now the biggest reason why I tend to add tokens to games, especially with games that have actions that you have to keep track of, right? Let's say that you're playing Arkham Horror. In Arkham Horror, you have to keep a track of your up to 3 actions that your character can do per turn. So I'll just keep these tokens near the character card, and every time I take an action, I just put one of these on the character, and then another one, and then another one. And that's how I know how many actions I've taken. And I've used this with dozens of games because I hate having to memorize how many actions I've taken. I just don't like that. I only want to memorize the rules. That's it. Okay. So that type of short-term memory, like I always try to come up with dice or tokens that help me keep track of that type of short-term thing. Okay. These generic Fantasy Flight tokens are the ones that I use the most for this purpose, but yeah, I just have an arrangement of other tokens that I use for various things, right, to keep track of. Sometimes board games don't include components for certain things that I would like to keep track of because maybe the designer didn't think that it was necessary, but I just try to reduce having to memorize certain things and keeping track of everything with some kind of component or another. And going back to the privacy stickers, these size perfectly fit some of these Fantasy Flight tokens. So if you wanna use these types of tokens for example, you wanna when you wanna keep track of how many actions you have, instead of moving it between like in and out of the character, you can just flip the token and it means that this action has been used, right? So ready and used, right? So just little things like that. These privacy stickers have come in pretty handy. I have used this for a couple tokens. You can do the same with wooden tokens, which you can get from AliExpress, okay? And also the Game Crafter. I tend to order some of these from the Game Crafter. They come in pretty handy with many games. All right, so that was my list of favorite board gaming accessories. I hope you find some of them useful and they help you improve your board gaming experience. And please let me know in the comment section if you have any other board gaming accessories that I haven't mentioned. I'm always open to trying other things to improve my experience. And if you have any other comments, questions, or feedback, go ahead and put them in the comment section. And if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.